kill some stuff in the short run, but in the long run, probably not going to save your life. You're going to be slow-growing cancer that it doesn't get, and because it causes all the side effects, you have to start to ask yourself if it does more harm than good. Okay? Now again, do your own research. Look this stuff up. The whole point tonight is to get you to start questioning some of these things, because chances are, for most of you, unless you've heard it from me before, most of you probably thought that chemotherapy was pretty effective at treating cancer. That's what most people think. But the statistics say otherwise, and it's important for you to know that. So we talked about the importance of knowing how to treat your own body so that you can become a cancer killer, prevent cancer, or even kill cancer as it's present. Now, if you have a diagnosis of cancer, you already have cancer, the longer you've had it, the more stronghold it's taken on your body, the more difficult it's going to be for you to overcome it, no matter what your approach is. The more advanced the cancer is, the more difficult it's going to be to overcome it. Okay? So that's why it's so important to, one, try to prevent, which is most effective, and if that's not the case, try to at least catch early, because then we're a lot more successful at taking care of it. So when you look at what are the true causes of cancer, because that's what we have to get to. Remember, I had the slide a little bit ago that I said cancer is not caused by a lack of chemotherapy, a lack of radiation, a lack of all those things, right? Well, what is it caused from then? Well, here it is. It's the 5 essentials that we always talk about. Usually we talk about the 5 essentials as the things that you need, but if you look at the inverse of that, if you're not doing those things, those are the 5 main causes of cancer. So what do we always talk about? Well, we talk about maximize your mind, right? That's essential number 1. Got to reduce stress in your life. Got to have a positive attitude. Got to believe that life is good. That good things are going to happen, right? It all starts up here. Well, the reverse of that is stress. Okay, there's number 1 cause of cancer, stress. These are in no particular order. Our second essential, we talk about maximizing your nerve supply, right? That's where your chiropractic comes in to make sure you don't have irritation on your nervous system so that your brain can communicate with your body. Well, what's a cause of cancer? Subluxation. That's where the spine is out of place, putting pressure on the nerve so that your body can't communicate properly, which we'll talk a little bit more in a second. Poor nutrition, poor fitness, toxicity. You guys want to know the 5 causes of cancer? There they are. It's not a secret. It's just not widely advertised because there's not a bunch of money to be made in these like there are chemotherapy drugs. There's a lot of money to be made there. So those get advertised, and that's what everybody hears about. That's what all the doctors hear about. But those things, guess what? For the most part, those are free, or they're things that are minimal cost, or they're things like the nutrition where you got to eat. You're either buying food, you're spending your money on junk food, or you're spending your money on good fuel for your body, right? So these things aren't exactly bank breakers, okay? You're not going to go broke trying to fix the 5 causes of cancer. So let's talk about stress, that first one. Dodging life's cancer bullets. So when we talk about stress, a lot of times we think of it only in the term of mental stress, like, oh, I'm stressed out or I have a lot of stress. But there's chemical, there's emotional, and there's physical stresses. Anything that causes our body to go out of what we call our homeostasis. Homeostasis is like just being in a natural state and being neutral, having everything go right. Anything that kind of throws us out of balance from that is a stressor. It could be physical, it could be a fall off a ladder, physical stress. It could be mental or emotional, like we already talked about. It could be chemical stress. Chemical stresses would be like the food you're eating, or toxins that you're exposed to, poor air you're breathing, water you're drinking, things like that. So there's different areas of stress that you can be exposed to. So the real question is, are you going to participate in a sick care model where you just treat the symptoms with chemotherapy and radiation, surgery, or are you going to be proactive and do the things to take care of your body so it fights cancer itself? your choice dictates your health, right? So the question is, the different stresses on your life that you're not taking care of, what's their true cost? Well, ultimately the cost could be your life. So there's all these options in healthcare, whether it's the medical doctor or the chiropractor or the health food store down the street. There's all these options. Everybody's getting in on the healthcare bandwagon, right? Well, that's not all bad, but sometimes the problem is too many options make you guys so confused that you end up not doing anything. You take none of the good actions, right? And so one of my goals tonight is to try to simplify the options for you so that you don't get bogged down in all of the options, okay? So the key is, with everything we do, we've got to create your body to be the cancer killer itself. And really, if we break it down, again, it goes back to the 5 essentials. If you ignore all the stuff that's out there and you focus on just these core essentials, being getting adjusted, so you take the pressure off your nerves, eating the right foods, exercising, and taking a few of the right supplements. And with the supplements, nobody wants to be on a ton of supplements, right? That's never the goal. My goal is always to figure out what is essential for your body so that you can be taking the least amount of supplements but getting the most benefit, okay? Which is why, for the most part, we narrow them down to just a few. So I'm going to back it up one here because I don't want to overlook this. This slide is telling you if you want to do the best job you can to prevent cancer and treat cancer, even if you already have cancer, the best things you can do for your body so that your body is a well-oiled, cancer-fighting machine, it's right there. Get adjusted, eat right, exercise, take the proper supplementation. That gets rid of all of the confusion. 4 main things. And everything that we talk about, if you've been at past talks or you come to future talks, you're going to find that most everything we talk about always ends up coming back to those 4 main things. Because no matter whether we're talking about fighting cancer, or fighting heart disease, or fighting arthritis, whatever it is, it always comes back to if you treat the person with those 4 main things so that they're as healthy as they can be, they don't have those problems, or they're less likely to have those problems. So here's a slide. It starts to talk about toxins that you can be exposed to that can lead to a toxic load in your body that can cause stress, that causes cancer. In a lot of the foods that are commercially processed, there's food dyes that give it color, and there's additives, which sometimes enhances flavor or maybe preserves freshness. A lot of these food dyes and additives have been linked to causing cancer and tumors. Okay? So if we're looking at being able to prevent these things, or trying to prevent these things, you want to avoid the food dyes and the additives. And really, the best approach to that is eat real food. If you're eating real food, and what I mean by real food is something that you could find growing in nature, it's less likely that it's going to have food dyes and additives. An organic apple is much less likely to have any food dyes or additives than a Dorito. Okay, that's what I'm talking about here. There's other problems that the food dyes and additives cause too, but our main topic tonight is cancer and tumors, so we're going to stick with that. Another big one is eliminating sugar. This is a tough one because everybody loves sugar, right? And it's not just sugar, it's also any of the foods that quickly turn into sugar, like your refined grains, your white flours, your white bread, white pasta, white rice. Those things are going to quickly turn into sugar as soon as they're in your body. The problem with sugar is that it feeds cancer. The body, or the cancer, will actually feed off of the sugar. If you want the fastest way to grow cancer in your body, eat a bunch of sugar. Okay, fuel for the cancer. The other thing that cancer does, that sugar does, is that it decreases our own immune system. So our immune system, remember, that's what we need to be strong so that we can fight off cancer, sugar depletes our immune system. Studies have shown that immediately, as soon as we consume sugar, our immune system gets suppressed. We're less likely to be able to fight off things like cold, flus, and cancer. So it's a double whammy. You eat sugar, you feed the cancer, and you decrease your immune system, all at the same time. See if there's anything else I want to cover, but we got it. So, a PET scan or a PET scan is often used to find or locate cancer in somebody's body in the medical world. And the interesting thing to understand about a PET scan is that it actually uses radioactive sugar. They put radioactive sugar in your body, and that radioactive sugar will accumulate wherever the cancer is. Why? Because cancer loves sugar. It's going to eat it. It's going to accumulate it right there. And that's how they can detect where and if you have cancer from the PET scan. So the real question is if you have cancer, do you really want something that's going to feed the cancer? Not really, right? What's a better option? Well, a much better option would be to be eating out of a Maximize Living Nutrition Plan book so that you're eating the right foods that are building up your immune system and starving cancer, because you're not going to be eating things that cancer likes, like sugar. That way you're fighting cancer, you're preventing cancer instead of feeding it, right? It's a much different approach, okay? It's not the old approach of, oh, I go in for all this medical testing and they tell me I have cancer. The test caused my cancer to get worse. Now they're trying to treat me with chemotherapy, and now my immune system's shot and it caused secondary cancers. This is a very different approach. This is saying, hey, whether you have cancer or not, whether you know you have cancer or not, without doing anything to diagnose it or to find it, it's going to make it worse. Just start living a healthier lifestyle. If you do the right things, you will prevent cancer. And if cancer is present, your body will fight cancer. That's what I'm starting to say here. Important to make sure you're not consuming toxic meat. Again, it talks about that in that book, but one of the first things you have to do is eliminate the toxins at the top of the food chain. Okay? Toxins in the world accumulate in the food chain. So there's a few toxins in the soils and accumulates into the plants, and then the animals that eat the plants have more toxins, so more toxins accumulate in the animal, and then animals that eat other animals, carnivores, will accumulate those toxins even more. So what I'm saying is that an animal is going to be 10 times more toxic than the plant. And an animal that eats other animals is going to be 10 times more toxic than that animal that only ate plants. Which means the animal that eats plants and animals is 100 times more toxic than just plants. So guess what we should be eating? Probably more plants, right? Or animals that are fed the right foods, not fed other animal parts, and not fed lots of grain and corn. This is kind of getting off topic. We've talked about it before, but the whole grain and corn problem is it's an unnatural diet for cattle. If we're talking about meat from cows, it's an unnatural meal for them. What a cow normally would eat would be grazing on grass. That would be a natural, normal diet for the cow. When we feed it nothing but corn and grains, we cause it to be really high in omega-6 fatty acids, which are inflammatory, which sets up a whole cascade of problems. So, as I try to reel it back in, because I'm talking about some other stuff that we've covered in the past, and we'll talk about more, it's in the book, but the whole point is making sure you're not consuming toxic meat, which means either eliminating meat from your diet or making sure that it's from an organic grass-fed source. There's nothing wrong with organic grass-fed cattle. That's a great source of nutrition, but it's got to be organic and grass-fed. Don't consume dangerous additives. We talked about the food dyes and additives a little bit already, but another one, you look at nitrites. that are in a lot of these meats, like deli meats, hot dogs.